Hello, I'm Anawultus, and today I want to talk about some discrepancy that occurred in the time travel as depicted in the film Marvel's Avengers Endgame. And something that I really noticed is, of course, the particular approach to time travel they took. I don't really have a particular problem with it as it was originally explained. Now, of course, if you ask the question of is the multiple worlds interpretation and realistic as a whole, and then whether you should apply it to time travel, I would say I would disagree. But of course, there are many different interpretations, and it is a sort of a science fiction thing, so I can't really criticize it too hard. But anyway, when it comes to the way it's explained, is that they can't change their own present by going into the past. In other words, when they go into the past, it is technically a different timeline that they are modifying. And of course, when they are called back to the present, it is their own present that they're being called back to. So, in other words, every particular temporal incursion occurs in a different timeline. Therefore, they kept it relatively consistent throughout the movie in how this was applied, until the very end, when you have Captain America showing up at the very end again, and he's an old man because he decided to stay in the past. Now, if we assumed that by them going into the past, it's actually a different timeline and that they're not able to change their own present by going into the past, then it doesn't make sense how Captain America would have been able to show up in their present, essentially. Because he of course went to the other timelines that they had taken the Infinity Stones from to bring them back there, but he chose not to come back. So in theory, if him going into the past does not change their present, then it should be that ultimately he would not be able to return to their present by going into that past, because it's technically a different space-time continuum. Now, and you may say, well, what about the idea that the diverging timelines were re-merged together by putting the Infinity Stones back into the past? Now, the problem with that is the fact that not only did they change other things besides removing the Infinity Stones in that past, they also killed Thanos. What happened is Thanos from the past came over to their present. They had a big fight. They killed Thanos, and therefore, not only did they originally kill their own Thanos, but they also killed the past Thanos as well, which means the universe from the time stream from which that Thanos originates now no longer has a Thanos, because he left the time stream and got killed and therefore didn't come back. So ultimately, if we assume that that is the same time stream that Captain America went back to, then it could not be the same universe in which Thanos acquired the Infinity Stones and therefore was able to erase life, leading to the events of the movie in the first place. In other words, everything made complete sense, or at least everything avoided paradoxes, until they showed Captain America returning to the present by going into the past, which technically shouldn't allow him to return to the present because it's a different space-time continuum. But yeah, that's my opinion. Do you agree? Or do you think that maybe I'm reading too much into this? Because they did explain this. They did actually put up some science fiction explanation. And what I'm simply pointing out is that their way of explaining it is inconsistent with how it ended up playing out at the very end. It was up until that point, but at the very end, it ceased being consistent, because in theory, he should not have been able to show up. But anyway, I mean, I'm not saying that he wouldn't have gone to the present at all. What I'm saying is he would have gone to the present of that world by staying there, and that world would be different from the one which he was from. And therefore, although you may have an old Captain America in that world, you wouldn't have it in the main world because he didn't return to the main world. And therefore that person does not live in that time stream because he left for the other one, just like how Thanos left the other time stream for the main time stream, and by being killed ended up not returning. So there you go. But tell me what you think. Was it? Do you think that there's perhaps something I'm missing out on? Maybe something that they explained that allows it to be consistent. Maybe I missed that. Or perhaps there's an aspect of this that I didn't explore that makes it logically possible. Or perhaps you agree, or perhaps you think I didn't go far enough in my critique of the time travel. Whichever position you end up taking, I would be happy to read it in the comment section below. But let me just say this. Don't take this as being a strong criticism against the movie, because I did actually enjoy the movie, okay? I'm not saying that I didn't enjoy the movie. I'm just saying that afterwards, there's a part in the movie that to me seemed a bit inconsistent. So thank you all for watching, or I suppose more listening, since I don't think I will be making any particular drawing. But I guess a good comparison to make would be how in, for example, Dragon Ball, you have the present timeline and the future timeline, and they're technically different universes. Because the fact that Goku survives in the present timeline doesn't mean that he didn't die in the future timeline. But anyway, that's another story. So anyway, thank you all for watching, and I will be seeing you all next time on Awiltus over and out.